Hello, it's been a minute since the last video update. It is the end of April now, and I'm just gonna update y'all on what I've been working on. All of the pieces that I started at the beginning of this year in Q1 are finished, so I'm excited to share those with you all. Let me go get them. So this is the first one. This is how it turned out, and I love how this one looks hanging up like on white walls. This one looks amazing, and I low-key want to do more just like this one. People of color on white on white. Okay, and then here are the next two pieces. These are how these turned out. I could low-key see these pieces being hung together kind of like this, or maybe like this, where they're looking in opposite directions, but I really love how these turned out. And my favorite thing about these new works that I've made is the craftsmanship. I really do think that I did not build this entire studio in vain. It was almost like school for me. Like, I got to practice, and I think you can kind of see that in the work, like versus like some of the old work that I have, which I don't have any of that with me right now. I think some of that should be returned to me next week, you know, because the show is coming to an end. But if I were to compare this to like when I first started cutting wood, clear difference. And part of it is I didn't have the tools that I have now for sanding and stuff. That's made like a huge difference on like the craftsmanship. The next piece is honestly too big for me to pick up, so I'm just gonna turn the camera so you can see. I haven't cut it out yet, but I will soon. Give me a second. So here she is. I don't really like that angle. So this piece is finished for the most part. I still need to cut it out, and also trying to give myself time to make little updates to it, because there's sometimes I look at it and I want to change some things. This has a lot of sawdust on it. May have to use the air pressure machine to get all that dust off. But yeah, what I'm waiting on with this one is to create the other three pieces that go along with this series, because I want to make sure that they actually look good and go well together, and all the cutting and everything makes sense, like the sizes make sense in relation to each other. So that's pretty much what I'm waiting on for this one. So I have maybe 2 to 3 more of these. I'm still trying to decide on if I want to do 2 or 3 more. I don't know. This one is titled I Choose, simply because, I don't know if you can see it. It says I choose on the bookmark there. What prompted me to paint this painting is I did like a little journal entry about choosing comfort over alignment. There's always the choice to go back to what is comfortable. And sometimes we don't realize that we don't have to keep doing the same things or whatever. So it's like documenting that process of becoming aware of your choice. But it's also like a layered meaning to it. Like, all of my artwork means several things, but I sum it down to one thing and put it in a box for the consumption of other people. And then last but not least, this is the one that I'm currently working on. It's done for the most part. What I need to add to it is to redo the letters and stuff and add some small details, and then I'm gonna cut it out. This one is a portrait of my mentor, Frank Frazier. I low-key want to see if I can record his reaction to it whenever I show him in person for the first time. When I paint other people, when I paint portraits or figurative work of other people, it is still within the themes of my work of individuality, introspection, vulnerability, and like personal evolution. And for me, when I'm painting other people, I'm painting my reflections. The people in your life, in your relationships, and the people you come across are your reflectors and are here to teach you many things. You can learn from everything if you choose to have the posture of a student. And so that's what I think about when I'm painting other people. the reflectors and what they've taught me. So even though I'm painting them, it is still very much so about me. So yeah, but this portrait is a portrait of my mentor, Frank Frazier. I was super intentional with the shapes that I chose and trying to emulate the Sankofa symbol. And so if you're not familiar with Sankofa, it's a bird or of some sort. I don't know what type of bird it is. Feathers going this way, and the bird's beak is pointing down, and they have like this seed here, and then legs. Sankofa means go back and get it. Go back to your past and get it. And another way of understanding it is your past informs your future. And so when I was thinking about painting this portrait of Frank Frazier, that's one of the first things that came up for me, mostly because of like who he is as a person and his motive when nurturing artists, his connection to his culture and community, definitely wanting to shine a light on younger artists like myself and other people. And yeah, this symbol is also just like all over his house, everywhere. So it just made sense. I just realized this because I'm looking in this direction, but I got some new studio stuff. So the first thing is, can I zoom in? So I got this air filtration system. There was just a lot of dust in here at one point, so I had to figure out a solution to collect some dust, especially when I'm cutting a lot. I don't cut in here every day, but when the days that I do, the dust is pretty heavy in the air, and I don't have like a dust collector. I do use a vacuum to plug into some of the machines that I use, but this is just, you know, an extra thing for my lungs. So the other thing that I have in here are these cabinets. I did not build these myself. I got somebody else to do it. I thought about building it myself, but Bobbiana the Builder is in her soft girl era right now. And so I'm still building stuff, but I'm just not building structures and cabinets and things like that. But I like that I have cabinets under there now for storage reasons. It was getting a little messy up in here, a little hectic, and I still feel like I could be a little more organized. Let me turn the lights on so you can see. It's kind of gloomy in here because of the rain. Ta-da! With the lights. All right. So for today, I do want to kind of have like a little bit of a working session, but I don't feel like painting or cutting wood today or anything. Like, I don't feel like sketching. So we're gonna go upstairs, because another thing that I've been doing in my free time is archiving all of my journals. The next few pieces that I create are based on journaling, kind of, and I'm at the point where I've been journaling for almost a decade now, and there's just too many of them. So I'm trying to archive them and then destroy them. But because I'm an artist, of course, I'm going to turn them into art some way. So this is probably an art thing later on down the line, but just in the meantime, when I don't feel like painting or drawing or whatever, I work on, you know, other stuff. So this is probably going to take me more than an hour, because I've been doing this for the past couple of weeks. But for the routine of it all, we're just going to set the timer anyway. Oh wait, it's so loud. I've been archiving my journals, and I initially wasn't going to, but my husband convinced me that it would be a good idea, and then also one of my friends convinced me that it would be a good idea to archive them before I destroy them, just in case. And like I said before, destroying them is not like, I don't know, it's not a negative thing. It's just, they're just old. It's old thoughts, it's old. And so I just want to get rid of it. So these are all of the journals that I've archived already. And this is what I have left. So let's go ahead and get started. This process has been super tedious, to be honest, like having to go page by page and flip everything, and also want to get like a picture of each of the covers as well. I'm destroying them. And maybe I should use a different word than destroying, because there's like, destroying sounds so like, I don't know, negative, but there's nothing bad in these journals. It's just life, to be honest. It's very honest, and it's not like a, what is it, Mean Girls or whatever, where they like put people's names in a book. If your name is in my book, I prayed for you, I promise. That's like the only reason your name is in my book. Either that or you're a part of the curriculum, opportunities to learn. So that's what I mean by the curriculum. As I'm scanning them, I am putting them in order by date. Which will help me if I ever choose to reflect back on them. And also as I'm scanning them, I'm not really rereading them. Like I'll glance at a couple pages, but I have no desire to reread like page by page. And the pages that I do glance at, I think is very interesting to just see how much I've grown over the years. That's like if I can read it, because my handwriting is trash, and I didn't even do that on purpose. It just is like, there's some good days of writing where the handwriting is legible, and then but most of the journals I can't read them. I'm just like, girl, what? Like what were you trying to say? This journal is one of my very first journals that I've ever had, and basically the catalyst to all of the journaling. And I received this when I went to a arts competition in Baltimore, or Baltimore as they say. I think it's just very significant that this is the first journal, because it has like, you know, the Disney characters. It was for 30 years of magic. It was maybe Disney's 30th anniversary, I guess. Yeah, that's what it was. It says anniversary on the back. But yeah, I think that's just so interesting that this being, you know, the first one, and I was like probably 18, very much so still a child. And then the way that I'm going to basically alchemize these journals is using either fire or water. And I may not want to use fire. Every time I think about fire, I think about my hair getting burnt, and I don't really want to touch fire. It's hard for me to light a candle these days. I'm traumatized, honestly. But yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more exploration with that, and see exactly what I want to do there. It's also been interesting to see as I look at these journals how much my journaling structure has changed over the years. When I first started journaling, I was actually a part of the campus ministry, and the whole group had journals, so they would like journal and the sermons and journal the Bible studies and all of that stuff. And then I turned it into a personal practice even after I left that group, because I had a conversation with one of the girls, and she's like, oh, you're like me. And I was just like, what? And she's like, you're a stuffer. And meaning like you stuff like your feelings inside, you suppress your emotions. She suggested journaling as a way to release those emotions. So that was like the beginning of my journaling. And then they low-key started to feel cultish after a while, so that's why I left. I dipped. I feel like we were somewhat forming like real friendships, but I also don't know if it was real because I feel like I couldn't really be myself around them. But yeah, I dipped. Not everybody is meant to be a forever friend or forever whatever, but I think you can always learn from those experiences and take what you need. So after leaving that campus ministry, I did start to journal in a more like free form type of way, not necessarily anything related to a sermon. I would see like in the journals that I've already scanned, I would see here and there that like there would be notes from a sermon in church, or I would start to journal my prayers, just stream of consciousness, journaling the prayers, and that was it. And so then around like 2019, I would say 2019, 2020, I was going through a lot of changes, and experiencing just like not the same like responsiveness to church. Like I was going, but I was like going through the motions. And I feel like 2020, everybody was going through it, to be honest. Like, you know, you're isolated. I've heard so many people say that they had like these very unique transformations around that time. And so I had one of my own as well. This season of life actually kind of reminds me of that time, because right now, like, even though I'm not like forced to be isolated, I do spend a lot of time by myself, simply because I'm not going to like a 9 to 5, or I'm not having to communicate with people regularly. And then like my husband works, so it's just me and the dog all day pretty much. It kind of takes me back to that time and that season of life where I was like sitting in isolation, and when I was, a lot of uncomfortable things came up. And like during that time, you're just like sitting with yourself and facing yourself. So that was the first moment that I pursued therapy for the first time, and really started to work through a lot of like trauma that I didn't even know that I had. Some things I just thought it was normal. My motto growing up was like, oh, it could be worse. So I never really thought of anything that I experienced being things that were limiting me in some ways, because when you have trauma, you have some trauma responses that you're not fully aware of. So becoming aware of my trauma made me realize I have these responses, and made me be more aware of how I show up for myself, but also around other people. And so starting to work through that, 2020 and 2021 was like the moment of facing myself for the first time, and also running away from the discomfort. But to sit down and process everything and grieve everything and feel my emotions, I needed that. I needed that time. And I'm glad that I took it, because like not processing things and holding those emotions inside is what causes disease at the end of the day. You gotta release, you gotta let things go. And crying and all of those emotions are not bad emotions, they're just uncomfortable. I feel like we would all like to cry tears of joy over tears of sadness and grief, but it's just necessary to release that stuff. Releasing old things, old narratives, and stuff that are not a part of me anymore. And I feel like when you're very resistant to change, that's what causes like depression. For me, I'll speak for myself. That's what I notice, like when I'm like in depressive states, is because I'm resisting like something. I'm not allowing the emotions to flow freely. I'm not allowing for the change to happen. I was seeking a lot of distractions around that time to not sit with the discomfort that I was feeling, like drinking, running. I moved apartments thinking that would help. What's that song? Cranes in the Sky by Solange. Like that was me drinking it away, running away, whatever she said, away, away. Yes, that was me. But I still journaled throughout that time, and I was glancing back on those journals and saw what brought me out of that space was starting to seek more gratitude. Like I started to make a gratitude list every day. Gratitude, sometimes a stream of consciousness, but mostly gratitude to basically override my system, just being thankful for the little things. And from there, I experienced my first religious deconstruction, where I started to see God as bigger than what Christianity teaches. And it was my first time experiencing Source, the divine, as a non-dualistic entity, if that makes sense. So after that point, I still prayed. I still wrote down my prayers. I still had my stream of consciousness, but I created another element to my journaling where I had my gratitude list and I had a goals list. At first, the goals were like tangible things, like I want to save X amount of money. I want to get this type of job. I want whatever. And then ultimately that transformed from tangible goals to more character goals, things dealing with my character. And that was also very helpful, because I think it kind of changed the game for me, because I feel like manifestation can be harmful. Like, you can want and manifest things into your life that you don't necessarily need, and then you're learning a lesson you probably didn't have to learn if you wouldn't have manifested the thing that you didn't need, if that makes sense. That T chart of gratitude and goals eventually turned into a quadrant where I'm writing gratitude, goals, my affirmations, and then a forgiveness section. Writing all of these things down allowed for me to not have to write them down sometimes. You get in the habit of doing this mentally. So like, there are some days that I didn't have the time to journal, but mentally I'm going through and I'm expressing gratitude, I'm expressing my goals, I'm expressing, the affirmations. Or I think at one point the affirmation square was just self-love, or I'm expressing the things that I love about myself. Expressing the things that I need to let go of, like mentally and verbally, just doing that without having to write it down. So journaling is definitely something that I think I will be doing for the rest of my life, to be honest, because it's been such a very helpful coping mechanism. But also there's therapy, and I've been to therapy several times as well. Both are great. To see how much I've changed, like how my view of God has changed. And I would say that, like, I've essentially taken God out of a box, or the box that, I grew up knowing. And with taking God out of a box, I've by default taken myself out of a box. It's definitely changed the way that I view life and the way that I perceive certain moments in my life, and changed the way that I view my limitations. Like, I really do feel like I can do anything that I set my mind to. And it's because I've removed like this shame and fear structure. I think shame and fear is not necessary to learn in this life. I think you just have to take accountability and acceptance of who you are in this moment, and choose to do better, or choose to change the things that you don't like. Be a student, have a posture of a student. These journals have definitely allowed for some critical thinking and sovereignty for myself, spiritual sovereignty, choosing what makes sense to me instead of following the group. I was having a conversation with this woman at an art event a couple weeks ago. She's 70 years old, and she was telling me, because I was like, talking about where I'm at with art and like life lately being cut off in so many ways. And she just kind of like affirmed that. She's like, oh yeah, you have been cut off. Like, you're meant to do this thing. And without her even seeing my work, she tells me, you're like the creator. And she draws out the Trinity, and she said, you do many things. You are a reflection of the creator. And she's like, do you pray? And I was like, yeah, I do pray. She's like, oh, you'll be just fine. She says, typically in religion, you're told to bow your head and close your eyes, but having conversations with God, it's like having a conversation. Is that a squirrel? What was I saying? Oh yeah, having conversations with God is like making eye contact. She's like, so I look up and I open my hands and I talk to God as if I'm talking to you, and looking, God in the eyes. And this squirrel. Anyway, enough of the journal talk. Another thing that I'm looking forward to for this quarter is hearing back from a lot of the places that I've submitted applications to. I planted a lot of seeds the first 3 months of this year, and so this is around the time that I should start receiving responses on whether or not I was selected for the things that I applied for. And it's a wide range of things: exhibition, proposals, grants. I applied to different calls for art, residencies. So I should be hearing back soon on all of that. Oh, I forgot to mention, I sold a painting like that. How did I forget that? I did sell a painting last week of March. Yeah, it was like the last week of March, and it's the highest I've ever sold a painting for. So, claps for that. And it's low-key my paycheck that I was making at that job. So if we keep moving like this, like, you know, life is gonna be great. Life is gonna be great. I haven't shared or posted about the fact that I've sold that painting. I'm a huge fan of delayed gratification, so I'll probably post it next month. It's very exciting, and also it just feels like confirmation in a way. It's the first piece I've ever sold of the wooden pieces that I've done. And it was the portrait that I did of my grandmother. So yeah, definitely feels like confirmation. One thing that I do want to do eventually is do a art tour. My style has changed over the years, like these journals have changed over the years. And I don't think I've ever really walked anybody through a tour of my art from like the oldest piece that I have to where I am today. And a lot of what I'm creating right now honestly reminds me of a younger version of me. Whenever I make that video, you'll probably see the parallel, but it's just kind of crazy because I'm just like, you know, for people who haven't seen the old work are probably kind of surprised by this direction with the shapes and everything, but it's really not new. It's really not new. And I think subconsciously my brain is pulling from old versions of me. And now that I think about it, a lot of the ideas that I wrote down for the new pieces that I'm creating, a lot of them reflect my old work, which is kind of insane. I'm just now having that realization. Yeah, interesting. Shoot, younger version of me was on to something. She was on to something. This is almost done, but I'm running out of things to talk about. So I've been reading books. I've always kept a book on me, but I have been reading a lot more lately because I have the time. And so one book that I've read recently that has been very helpful and changed my perspective on some things is The Untethered Soul, which has been recommended to me before by a couple of people, and I just read it. And it talks a lot about choice in that book. That's like the theme lately. But choosing to open your heart and keep your heart open. And it's common after disappointment or after betrayal to close your heart and create certain blockages. When your heart is closed, you can always feel it. You can feel it in your chest, you can feel it in your body. The other book that I'm reading is Inner Engineering. I think that's another book that is opening my eyes to just a way of being human that I haven't really thought about. And it talks about your physical body, your energetic body, your karmic body, emotional body. So far, it's a very interesting read. Outside of reading, creating, archiving journals, I've also been taking the time to do stuff that I've always wanted to do but never had the time to do. One of those things is volunteering on a farm. Y'all, I harvest some eggs, I grew some arugula, I fed some pigs, I held a chicken, and it was a really, really good time. And I'm probably gonna go back maybe next week and do it again. Maybe make it like an every other week thing for myself, because it just felt good to get out the house and be amongst people doing some super relaxing and therapeutic work and just being in the ground, touching grass. Like, it was a really good time. And the other thing that I've been doing is I took a couple of dance classes. I'm not like a dancer. Can I dance? If I try really hard, I can, but it just don't come to me easy. And I blame my dad for that, and my mama. She can't Dougie. I found out that recently. My sister told me she can't Dougie. So I got it bad on both sides of the family. My siblings though, they can do a little jig, they can do a little 1-2. For me, I'm challenged. And that's why, like, I know my strengths. I'm an artist, I paint, I draw, I know my strengths. But it was really good to do something different and to move my body and get creative in that way. All done with that one. I feel like it actually took me an entire hour to get through it. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Got 9 more to go. Thank you for watching. Until next time. Bye.